Hi, this is Jay Hummel. Welcome to the deep dive. So excited you guys are watching. I have a good friend and mentor on the show today, Bill Sowell. Bill, thank you for being on the show, and I can't thank you enough for making the time. Give the viewers a little bit background on you and what you're doing at Sowell.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Jay, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Um, and I'll just make just a quick statement. There's some people in your life that you meet along the way, and there's just an immediate connection. And when I look back at your and my relationship, I remember the first time we met, it just like there was just something there. And so, through all the years we've known each other, we've stayed in contact, and it's just been it's been a lot of fun, being around you and watching what you've accomplished as well. So I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Well, I really appreciate it, and maybe not to bore people, but I don't think I misremember this. We met in the Pioneer Room in Chicago, which was Judd Bergman's conference room. You know, the founder of InvestNet, and he had all the pioneers up, Gandhi and Mother Teresa, and people that he respected who thought differently. And I think that's where you and I first met.
That is where we first met, and
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, his office was in Al Capone's old office.
It
I
was, yeah,
remember
the Jewelers Building. Yeah.
he was like a kid in a candy store. I don't think they'd been there long, and he's like, "You got to come see my office."
You got to
So
come see it because you could drive a car into the elevator because that's how Al Capone used to drive in and sneak away from the police. He would drive into the elevator. You've had a really impressive career. You've had highs and lows, right? And you've built businesses. You've been an advisor. You run a very respected RIA platform company today. But what I would love for the show today to be about is kind of your journey.
probably the most interesting part is that I had no idea I would end up where I am. I never had any intentions to do what I've done and build what I built. But I think the exciting part is, as an early adopter to the fee only business or fee based business, I converted my personal practice to fee only in the mid '90s, and which at that point in time was pretty unheard of. There weren't many people doing it, but a friend of mine and a mentor who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but he introduced me to the fee-based space, and the more we talked about it, he ran the largest trust department in the state of Arkansas. And the more I learned about what they were doing on a fee basis, it just made so much more sense to me than the traditional brokerage world that we all kind of grew up in, where everything was commission based. And even though I would never make a recommendation to a client that wasn't appropriate or right for them, it still, I just felt like there was an inherent conflict. If I'm getting paid to buy something, I'm getting paid to sell something, so the fee based space, it was a game changer for me. So, in '95 is when I moved over to a regional broker dealer. They had an RIA platform that they really weren't using much other than for variable annuity management. So they agreed to let me stand up my portfolios on the brokerage platform, and after a couple of years, more of the advisors that I got to meet at the broker dealer, asked me if I would start helping them convert over to the fee based space. So, I started doing that. So I was managing my own client base as a financial advisor, and then started helping other advisors, and that just kind of kept growing, and it got to a point where I was helping as many people. I was probably spending more time helping other people than I was managing my own book. So, I ultimately hit a point where I kind of had to make a decision, and that was either, I wasn't going to shut down my personal practice, but I couldn't serve two masters. So that's when we really launched Sowell Management, and our early on iteration was as a pure TAMP. So we managed assets all at that broker dealer, and what happened was there were advisors that started leaving that broker dealer and going to other broker dealers, and they'd go to LPL, Cambridge, Centaurus, Securities America. I ended up on over 20 of the largest independent broker-dealer platforms managing assets, which again, I never really set out to do. But as the fee-based space started to evolve and grow, that's really when things started changing for me from a business perspective. And then the biggest aha moment for me was there was a competitor of ours in California that ran afoul with the SEC. This was late 2016,
Yep.
and I was at about $500 million, and that broker dealer got kicked off of Fidelity and Schwab's platform. So I knew some of the advisors. So in a 3 month period, brought in over $1 billion. So we went from 500 to over $1.5 billion in 3 months. And that's a great growth story, but it was an oh crap moment for me because now I've got all these advisors, all these assets, and my biggest concern was that I didn't have the platform to support all those advisors.
How did you think about that? I remember when we mentioned being in Chicago together. You were 435 at the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
remember you were at a crossroads. You made plenty of money. You had a good business. You were totally fine, but you were at a crossroads. Do I stay where I am and just kind of run it as a family business, right? And you took care of your people extremely well as you always have, or do I go big?
Well, and you're exactly right. We were at a crossroads because,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big decision. So, I felt like, I've always been very intentional about everything we've done. If we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. We're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do anything half-assed, and we're going to make sure we do it right. So, um, I knew to support that growth, we were going to have to get the platform built out, and which I knew was going to take a lot of time and a lot of money and more people. And as you well know, hiring and managing people is not at the top of the list of things that I would want to do every day. But as we grew and started,
That's why you have Daryl.
exactly. So so we made the decision to make that transition, and we certainly, we jumped out of the minnow pond into the shark tank. Trying to compete with a lot of the big names that were out there. But the I think the biggest thing was we had developed a really good reputation within the industry. Certainly with all our custodial partners, and I think partnership was the key to all of it because everything we've done, everybody we work with, we talk about partnership, and in partnerships, you're in it together and you're helping each other.
What do you think, Bill, as you look at your entrepreneurial journey? What's the biggest pivot that you made that didn't work?
So, and you're exactly right. My favorite saying is adversity creates opportunity. And I don't care if it's in our personal lives or in business. If we're faced with adversity, at the end of the day, it makes us stronger if we manage it or handle it properly. And at the end of the day, it turns into an opportunity. And for me, it was I think the biggest defining moment for me was we were in the middle of our growth. I needed to hire somebody. I had a guy I had known for a very long time. He was one of the smartest people I've ever known. I brought him into the firm, defined his role. He did a fantastic job, hard worker, showed up every day, did everything I asked, but his personality was obnoxious. And within no time, I could feel the culture inside our firm changing because of this one person. So I ended up having to let him go. And we're a big EOS firm. We've been on EOS for about 8 years
Yeah,
now.
sure.
And in EOS terms, it's called 36 hours of pain. And that's, when you let somebody go that's doing a really good job. So that moment for me really changed everything because that's when I recognized we can hire people you can hire good people and teach them how to do a job. You can't you can't change somebody. So
No,
it, it, it
somebody said to me the other day, which I thought was really interesting, and I know you have kids like I do, which is there are certain things you can't teach. You can teach a lot of things. You can teach, you can't teach work ethic. You can't teach culture. You can't teach how to be kind, right? Those three things you can't teach. Everything else you can teach, but but those three things are inherent if you're going to run a family or a business. And I just thought I thought that was really smart. I hadn't heard that before,
yeah,
and I think it's true.
it is true.
Yeah.
So, that was a very defining moment for me. And that's when, not only from that experience of hiring somebody that did a good job, but, wasn't the right person, um, it also, reconfirmed to me the value of culture. And so, as a firm, we've always been very, very intentional. We've got our set of core values. We manage by those core values. We do our reviews based on our core values with our employees, and so, in that culture is, it defines you.
So I would love to have you on for like 2 hours because I think we could do that. I can't wait to come see you in Arkansas soon. The last question I always ask guests is because I have smart people on the show, much smarter than me, like you, is what's the one thing in the industry? Because as you know, majority of our viewers are advisors and home office and industry leaders. What's the one thing that you're thinking about that you think people aren't paying enough attention to?
Well, we talk about technology, and we talk, especially, AI. Everybody's on the AI buzz, and we talk about all these things within the industry. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of times what gets lost is that we're in the people business, we're in the relationship business. And the moment we start forgetting of why we're here, and that's to connect with our clients, have a true deep connection. And, I've always called it the heart of an advisor. To really be good at being an advisor, you got to have the heart of an advisor, and that means truly caring about your people. And and I will say, as a financial advisor, even though we run a $6 billion RIA, at the end of the day, it's there is no greater feeling as an advisor than having had a client that you've worked with for all these years, and to be able to sit down with them and look at them and go, "We've done it. We've hit all your goals." I
We
mean,
got you. You know, the best thing as a former advisor, I used to always say, it's no different than being a coach. If you're Nick Saban, you're a financial advisor, is getting the people that trust you to the finish line is the best feeling on the planet, right? Like, and your advisors spend every day trying to get them to the finish line.
no doubt.
And
And I think what's helped too is, as an advisor who built a platform, every single thing we do every day, I look at it from an advisor's perspective, and my first thought is that going to help our advisors? And it makes the decision really easy, because if it is, we'll do it. If it's not going to make a difference, why are we wasting our time?
well, you're probably making an assumption that the viewers won't make as well, which you and I both know is if it's good for if you do the right thing from a platform standpoint for the advisor, what you ultimately want to do is deliver better outcomes for the end client, right? Because that's what the advisor is in the business to do. So that's what you guys have done a great job doing, and I really appreciate, Bill. Like I said, I know you're really busy. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I hope you can't wait to see you in Arkansas soon or in Kansas City, and I hope you'd be willing to be on the show again.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for watching. This was a great guest today, as we always have. We'll see you next time on the deep dive.